Shalom, Kahalo Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Bashem Kakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of GMS, including the elders that came before them that taught us this truth. Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word of truth and in sincerity, the hopeful elect, tabernacle of David. All right, this is a quick lesson. All right, couple of things have transpired since yesterday. I saw the elder apostle Tahar put up a video. It was called The Least of the Flock, something of that nature. And I thought that he was going to speak on this small upgrade right here, but he didn't get to it, so trying not to do exactly the same thing that he did. But this is a little further information. I think he touched on it, but this is a little more recent, I believe. So, and of course, his videos are always on point and inspiring. So, this is Johnny Storm over at Don't Speak News, his channel. This is an article. Israel decides on ground operation. Strategic strike missiles in the hands of Hezbollah from Russia and Iran. Okay? Okay, so Hezbollah, which is basically the Palestinians, right? It's a contingent of, I believe, Ishmaelites, and they're over there. They come up against the least of the flock. Okay, and right here it's saying that they're being given missiles. Okay, from who? From Russia. Strategic strike missiles. Okay, now what's going on in the greater scheme of things? All right, let's get a precept real quick, because everybody is funneling money and weapons and arms to the Ukraine, right? Well, this is the same thing. All right, that's what I'm looking for right here. Joel 3:10. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Well, Hezbollah was firing Estes Sentry rockets that might start a fire if there's a high wind and with a lot of luck. Not an explosion of any kind. They were just firing rockets that, like fireworks, basically. Okay? Hezbollah. But now, let the weak say I am strong. Hezbollah was weak. Getting manhandled by these Israelis that are funded with billions of dollars from Babylon the Great. They call these people the little Satan. This is what the Arabs call. They call Babylon the Great, they call it the Great Satan, which is America. And then they call these people over there stealing land, they call this the little Satan, because they're one and the same, basically. Okay? So it says that suddenly Hezbollah is strong enough because they were given strategic strike missiles, not rockets. Okay? From who? From Russia and who? Iran. So they have to make a case. What they're doing is they're making a case so that they can act on whatever drill they said. Oh, we're running a drill. It's called Chariots of Fire, right? It's a drill. No, it's not a drill. Okay? Warfare, asymmetric warfare dictates that you say you're running a drill, but it's the exact same scenario, real time, live fire. Just like 911, right? And NORAD had a stand down order because they were running a drill that said planes flew into the World Trade Center. A simultaneous drill while the real thing is going on. All right, and we know that now. We know that that's how things are done in the 21st century. All right, so I'm talking too much. Let's read a little bit of this article. We got to go to his channel because he'll get a strike. He'll get a strategic strike if he don't do things right. All right, so Israel has decided to go to the front and to a new war with Hezbollah. Israeli media have published a missile terror list revealing that Iran and Russia have equipped Hezbollah with a huge stockpile of strategic missiles. The list, if true, is simply shocking and raises reasonable questions as to how these weapons were transferred to Hezbollah without Israel realizing it. It comes at a time when there's a lot of information about an impending Israeli ground attack on Lebanon with preparations already underway. So why is it wrong for Russia and Iran to arm their allies, but everybody from around the world can send money, troops, and weapons to the Ukraine? Okay, you see these double standards? Targets have been set in Israeli simulation and an Israeli simulation against Hezbollah, and the Iranian axis in Syria is underway. So this is the least of the flock, just like the elder apostle broke down. But see, right now, so much more is coming out. Israeli media, they are planning a naval blockade in Israel. Israeli media report that Iran has equipped Hezbollah forces with cruise missiles, including the Kh-55, which is potentially capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. Woo! Now wait, are you saying that Iran has nukes? Or it's just this rocket, this cruise missile, if you, which is what they fired into the Pentagon, allegedly. This cruise missile can carry, is capable of carrying, or is this just propaganda? Tokyo Rose on steroids. The purpose of the Iranians, the purpose of the Iranians is the naval blockade of Israel. The missile has a range of 2,500 kilometers. This report came from Western sources on Monday, May 6th, when the Israeli Navy participated in the large-scale exercise, Chariots of Fire. So they're already doing their war games, right? Team spirit, if you will. And now they're about to go live. That's what this is telling you. Israeli media emphasize. Okay, so there's more on this. You can read it. All right, but the point is this thing is escalating, and this is indeed Jeremiah. What is it? 49:20, I believe. Let's get that real quick, because I'm rambling. Jeremiah 49:20. Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord that he hath taken against Edom, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. Well, who is the least of the flock? the Amalekites. All right, these guys, the small hats. All right, so with that, let us go back here. We're going to watch a quick video on Don't Speak News. This guy comes out with some pretty good info, and then he starts trying to break down the scriptures, and he does really bad. Okay, so this is yesterday. War update. USA and Israel agree on attack plan as CENTCOM coordinates huge exercise with AI. Let's watch this. Commercial. Oh, no.
Israel and the U.S. agree on attack on Iran. CENTCOM coordinates colossal exercise with AI involvement and Cyprus involvement. Everyone, Johnny here, Don't Speak News. Let's just get right into it as always. I was going to report on something else, but then, as usual, other things can pop up. Here we go. Rapid developments are taking place in the Middle East as Israel and the U.S. have agreed on a plan of attack against Iran. The Americans will support Israel militarily, removing any reactions that have taken place in recent years. Time now flows in reverse, as the Israelis are talking directly about a blow to Iran here and now. For this reason, the Israeli Air Force will carry out a large-scale attack in Iran. This exercise will be the largest to date and would be part of this Chariot to Fire exercise that's already begun.
So what he just said, they're already wargaming. Okay? Now, while they're wargaming and everything is in place, they're going to go live and they're telling you. They are so much as telling you and telegraphing what their intentions are. They're putting it out there. Going back to 9/11 and a simultaneous drill and live. To understand what I'm trying to say is, while those planes were running into the buildings on 9/11, the military was running a drill at the same time. The scenario of the drill that the military was running was that planes were running into the World Trade Center. So there was a stand down order at NORAD, right? North American Radar, whatever, that controls the skies of the United States. So they told, which is when you scramble planes, if there's a rogue plane about to hit a building, you scramble the jets within minutes, and they can shoot those planes down before they hit anything. Okay? So the jets that were to be scrambled were under the impression that it was a drill going on when it was actually going on real time. All right? And that's how you accomplish things. That's how you get a stand down. Okay? You simulate a drill. Call it a drill, war games, if you will, when there's actually a live fire situation going on. So I'm going to back that up a little, and he's going to explain it again. If you listen close, he's saying exactly what happened 2001.
For this reason, the Israeli Air Force will carry out a large-scale attack in Iran. This exercise will be the largest to date and would be part of this Chariot to Fire exercise that's already begun, as it began last week, like we talked about here on this channel. Now, Israeli media reported that the anti-Iran strike simulation would be based in Cyprus at the end of May. It'll be the first time in at least 5 years that the Israeli army has participated in such an exercise. The goal is to redevelop a credible military option against Iran's nuclear program. Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz is leaving for the United States today. He will meet first with U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and then with his counterpart Lloyd Austin on Thursday. The issue of Iran will be on the table. And of course it will. So getting ready for this, guys. This could happen any time. But this exercise is scheduled to begin at the end of May. And as we know, this kind of an exercise can turn into the real thing just like that. because you can bet they've already run these exercises and simulations, and they're pretty much ready to go. So this could turn hot and real. I mean, it could be, that's very well what it could be, under the guise of an exercise. So we'll have to keep our eyes on this. Now, as for the U.S., they agreed to strike Iran together with Israel. This is according to Israeli information. This is also from Michael Kurilla, the new head of SECCOM, who arrived in Israel for a first official visit. And it will focus on ongoing operational cooperation between Israel and the U.S., maintaining regional stability and addressing common operational threats and challenges in the region. So according to Israel information, CENTCOM commander lands in Israel to coordinate joint strike simulation exercise in Iran. Dozens of Israeli fighter jets will take part in the simulation of an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. The U.S. Air Force will take part in the Israeli simulation of the Iranian strike that will begin in 2 weeks. The U.S. tankers will refuel Israeli fighter jets during the exercise. The Israeli Armed Defense Forces, or Armed Forces, IDF, and the U.S. military will also simulate the deployment of U.S. forces in Israel and the operation plans for the integration of Israel and U.S. air defenses in the event of war with Iran. And there you have it. That pretty much sums it up. I'll let you read the rest on your own, as my voice is probably not going to last much longer today. So, that's the latest on that whole situation in the Middle East, which to me jumped out a lot more than anything going on in Ukraine right now. Also, speaking of Ukraine, I did put up a new story we can't speak about anywhere else on the website, don'tspeaknews.com. It's right here. Statement by the permanent representative, Vasily Abenzia, at the UN Security Council, and it's a briefing on biological laboratories in Ukraine. And he's talking about threats to international peace and security here. So this is a story that has a lot of stuff that we probably can't speak about here on YouTube, so I won't bother. But it is very, very good, very informative, and very damning for the U.S. military, their contractors, and Ukraine. So a lot of stuff in here, guys. I highly suggest you go read it, and then share it with everyone you know, because they can deny it all they want, the U.S. and Ukraine. Of course, they had to admit it at one point, Victoria Nuland, to Senator Marco Rubio. It was on C-SPAN, and we talked about it when it happened a couple months ago, where she said, yes, we were doing experiments with Ukraine. If anything bad happens, you can bet it would be the Russians, when they take over those labs. So they did admit to it, guys, but now they keep denying that they were doing anything wrong or anything bad. Well, you can read for yourself what they were doing. And there's a lot of bad there. So all that and more at the website, don'tspeaknews.com. Also, we're doing our monthly fundraiser, started today for May of 2022. And thanks to your prayers and support, I can continue to not only keep my eyes on the headlines, but do the research that's required to get to the real story and the truth. I spend most of my time, 9 to 15 hours a day, 6 days a week, diving into these rabbit holes, using translators to try and figure out what's really going on, guys. Of course, I don't count the hours spent in prayer and meditation to keep my spiritual muscles sharp.
Okay. There you go. It starts going off when he tries to speak on the scriptures. All right, so what left is there to say? Let the weak say I am strong. Okay, that last part there was going into these bioweapons, okay, that they did acknowledge that those labs are over there, and now they're saying that there's going to be, right, a biological strike. And what was so significant about those labs is that they were saying that there's race-specific weapons, okay? And when you get into what race-specific weapons mean, and you go to the scriptures, right? We could just go to Psalm real quick and ferret out what the plan actually is. Start at 3, Psalms 83 and 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans may no more be in remembrance, for they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederate against thee. So they have a plan to do what? To cut us off. Who? Who is they? The tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarim. Okay? So-called white men, the Arabs, the Chinese, and the Africans. Okay? Who's this? The least of the flock. All right? So with that, should be good enough. Let me go back here. I want to do something, because since they're striking channels and taking down videos and doing all sorts of crazy stuff, if you would please, if you're watching this, subscribe to my other channel, which is the New Song Ga. Only got 9 subscribers, which is fine, but as soon as if I get another strike, I don't know how many I have, but the way that they're forcing the famine of the word right now, the channel that we're at right now is the New Song Ba. This is the New Song Ga. All right, so subscribe to this, and you know, we can make a seamless transition when that day comes. All right, so just a quick reminder. So with that, we hope that the elect were edified. And with that, you brothers and few sisters, we're going to say shalom.